Let's get right to the Republican-endorsed candidate for U.S. Senate. Adam Schwarze won that right and that designation at the convention this weekend, and he joins us on the John Schuster Coldwell Banker Hotline. Congratulations, Adam.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me on today.
So, want to start right with the moment of silence for Derek Chauvin. It's been a big topic today. We've asked Kendall Qualls about it. We've asked the Republican Party chair. I want to ask you about it. Was it appropriate to have a moment of silence for Derek Chauvin at the Republican convention?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't even there. I was greeting people at the other end of the building. I had a long list of people that were coming from all around the state to say hi. So I just found out about it yesterday as well via Twitter or something.
And do you think it was an appropriate thing to do, or should they have shut it down? What would you have done if you were running the convention?
I wasn't there, so I'm not going to comment on something I didn't even hear about till yesterday.
Well, it's just a moment of silence. I don't know that you had to witness it to know, right? Like, is that something that you would condone, or you would have?
I wasn't there, so I'm not going to comment on something I wasn't there because I don't know all the atmospheric stuff went into it. Certainly, there was something happening at that point in place. I wasn't at that point in place.
I mean, it was a nomination that came from the floor. That's what Alex Plekach said. And that, they said, like, can we want to have a moment of silence, or was a voice vote? And they had a moment of silence. I don't know. I don't know that it's that deep that you needed to be there to have an opinion on it, right? You're going to, if you're elected senator, you're going to be asked about all sorts of things you didn't witness.
Yeah, and I'll stay on message. If I didn't see something, I'm not going to talk about it. When I talk about something, it's because I have something to contribute.
Do you think Republicans are wise to revisit the conviction of Derek Chauvin? Do you think he was wrongly convicted?
I don't think Republicans are revisiting it. I think you're talking about a single act in an event. I thought we were here to talk about how it was just an endorsement for the U.S. Senate race, not to talk about a murder case that happened, years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to talk about it, but this
right now. I'm here to talk about how I just spent 3 years preparing for something that was really exciting. We just coalesced an endorsement for the United States Senate. It should be a really exciting time to talk about my values and why I won the endorsement, and all the things I'm going to do to support our conservative values. And I feel like you're wasting my time talking about something that I wasn't a part of. I wasn't even home. I was serving our country downrange when that happened, but I was there. I came back home after Tim Walz allowed our state to be burned to the ground. We could talk about that because that's when I separated from service. I came home with, after 21 years of service in Minneapolis, was burned to the ground. My biological sister, 3 blocks away from the target that Walz allowed to be burned to the ground. But I'd rather talk about the future than waste time talking about the past. And I'd rather because a lot of Minnesotans don't know who I am, talk about the policies I have to put forth that's going to make sure that we get Minnesota and our country on the right track.
Well, and I think, it's all right. Like, you don't want to answer it. That's fine. And this is sort of how this goes. We ask what we want to ask about, and you can talk about what you want to talk about and what you don't. That's fine. I do want to ask.
I'd like to talk about making DC working for the American people again.
Why do you think you got the endorsement over Michele Tafoya? I think the national money has been lined up behind her. Certainly, you've been putting in the work over the years, as you said, trying to win over the Republicans who would be showing up at this thing. What do you think is the main difference between you and Michele Tafoya?
Yeah, you said it the best. The national money. Michele Tafoya represents the DC establishment. There's a lot of people on both sides of the aisle who are not happy with the DC establishment, the status quo. And certainly on the Republican Party, they are not happy with the Senate can't pass the Save America Act right now. 87%. That's not Republicans, Democrats, men, women, black, white, rich, poor. 87% support that. And so we have weak leaders who don't fight for Americans. I've been a fighter for America my whole life, not even for a party, by the way. I fought, 9 deployments, 70 plus countries. It was fighting for America. I'm going to continue to fight for America. And that's what the delegates see. They see a fighter who doesn't compromise on his values. He doesn't compromise when it comes to supporting red flag gun laws like she does, who doesn't say that the number one hill she would die on is to go to march on Washington so women can have abortions. Like, that's a pretty big deal, especially for me, who's somebody who was adopted. I'm only on this planet because my mom chose life for me. I have a lot of hills I'll die on. like going after corrupt politicians, going after all this $19 billion of fraud that was stolen from the America, largely federal tax dollars. There's a lot of hills I'll die on, deficit spending, but my number one priority is not to go to march on Washington to fund abortions like Michele says.
Adam Schwarze is the Republican-endorsed candidate for U.S. Senate, just endorsed this weekend. You mentioned abortion and Michele Tafoya's position on abortion. What is Adam Schwarze's position on abortion? Would you vote to ban abortion at the U.S. Senate?
That's like I'm not trying to talk about weeks. I'm not trying to talk about bans. I'm trying to talk about promoting life. And this is a very human issue. It's a very personal issue for a lot of Americans, and especially for women. And I understand that, but it's also a personal issue for somebody like me. I'm literally only on the phone with you right now talking because my mom chose life and adoption and sacrifice and endured so I could have a chance. And certainly when I get to the United States Senate, that's going to be one of my biggest priorities is expanding life through promoting adoption. And then also I want to provide resources to expectant mothers. 70% of abortions happen because women feel like they're not going to be supported. So I want to provide resources so mothers can have to choose life. But also there's a lot of people that are not happy their taxpayer dollars are being forced to be used to fund abortions. And I don't believe in taxpayer funded abortions as well.
So what legislation, and my mom is adopted as well. I'm so grateful for everybody out there who takes that moment and chooses a baby who was maybe left behind. So I'm with you 100% on endorsing and supporting adoption. At the same time, I think a lot of people, especially in the Republican Party and the conservative side of the Republican Party, would like to see a senator who would restrict abortion, who would tighten laws on a federal level, especially now that the Supreme Court decision has opened that door. Would you abortion law in Minnesota or in America?
There's no hypothetical laws that are out there. So I'm not going to, again, speculate on the hypotheticals. I'm telling you what I'm going to focus on federally. But I think it's interesting you're not talking about what the Democrats have passed when it was returned to the law of the land. We have the most abhorrent abortion laws in the entire world. The left likes to talk about our abortion rights as if it's like a great thing. We have more open abortion access than North Korea and China and everywhere else in the world. You can literally survive an abortion and they will let you die on a table now. That we have the most egregious laws, and that is because of Flanagan, who I'm going to run in the primary. Unfettered abortion. You could literally be 9 months and 1 day, if the child is not born from inside of you, you can have an abortion. That's pretty abhorrent.
Is that happening?
Why would we not make it illegal?
Do you think the U.S. Senate should intervene or should build some walls so Minnesota couldn't have a law as open as the law is right now?
I will support any law that expands life. You're missing my point. Is that when you want to try to talk about abortion, but why aren't we talking about right now what Walz and Flanagan passed when the laws of the land were turned to them? They're like the most radical access in the entire world.
Well, we are talking about that. I'm asking you if you would pass a law to restrict that, to change that.
Yes, of course I would, but there's no law that's out there. So why are we focusing on stuff that's not out there? I want to focus on things I can actually accomplish. I think I'm going to be very good at actually accomplishing expanding adoption, making it more accessible, making it more affordable, removing the red tape. And I think I'll hopefully get across the aisle, which is what Tina Smith stymied, supporting expectant mothers. Tina Smith was on the bought and take paid for. I think that's why she's not running for Senate anymore. All the time she cut insider trading while everybody else was locked down during COVID. But anytime there was a bill that supported expectant moms or supported birthing centers, she shot it down.
When you think about the next step here, which is getting through Michele Tafoya and getting through the Republican primary, are you worried about the fact, her name recognition obviously is high. I think people don't necessarily know anything about what Michele Tafoya feels about the issues, similarly to you, right? So are you going to get the money to be able to put up a strong campaign against Tafoya?
Well, I've already raised $1.25 million, and that was all through We the People funding. It wasn't through DC special interest groups. That's pretty impressive for a no-name, brand new candidate to raise over $1 million. And I'm not being sponsored by all the special interest lobbyist groups. And that's kind of the whole so what of why my campaign is taking off. is because I do the hard work. I represent the values of America and certainly the Republican Party. And Americans, again, not even party specific, are sick of having DC lean in and parachute these people that don't support and don't fight for the people. I mean, I don't agree with probably any of her policies, but Peggy Flanagan on the other side of the aisle is having the same thing. Unsupported, trying to do grassroots fundraising. DC funds Craig, like $7-8 million, and the left is wholeheartedly turning their backs on Craig because Americans are sick and tired of DC trying to have their way with the patriots of this country and then not serve them when they get there. And that's why my campaign is going well, because I'm going to fight for Minnesotans when I get to Washington.
Adam Schwarze is with us. What do you think House Speaker Lisa Dameth should do? She was not endorsed at the convention this weekend. Do you think she should abide by that, or should she run in the primary?
My understanding was she committed to abide by the endorsement. I had committed to abide by the endorsement from the very start of the race. In Minnesota, we don't have a winning track record, which has not made our fundraising easy, makes it more difficult. We don't have the ability to, and by the way, Democrats have all the billionaires actually funding them. So we can't afford late primaries in August. We need to come together as a team. We had that process. It's called the Republican Party Convention. Unlike the Democrats, we actually abide by those endorsements. And so, yes, I think that every candidate who was endorsed should go on, and every candidate who did not endorse should support the party and the platform of those candidates so we can build a team to make sure we don't elect people like Peggy Flanagan, who's openly running as an open socialist. That is counterproductive to the American values and will seal our fate.
There was a statement at the convention at the end when Kendall Qualls won where he said the boys are back in town. And the list of Republican-endorsed candidates are all men. Does that concern you?
Why would that concern me? It was a Thin Lizzy song lyric. I thought somebody maybe on radio would have known that. But you know what else? We all are patriots. Every single endorsed Republican is a veteran. Why don't we talk about that?
Go ahead and talk about it. I don't know why you're being so combative with me, though. What?
I don't know why you're trying to wedge me. This is like the most intellectually bankrupt. I've had like probably 1,000 media hits at this point. This is just terrible. Like, wow, it's like you guys are terrible. Like this is crazy. I've been you asked me like 10 minutes about an event I wasn't at for like some sort of insider track because you want to highlight something that I wasn't there.
Adam, you're
intellectually bankrupt, brother.
Adam, if you are going to be the senator for the state of Minnesota, you will be one of the highest ranking Republicans in this state. And it is absolutely reasonable to ask the Republican endorsed candidate about something that happened at the Republican convention.
Yes, and I specifically said I wasn't there. Don't know the atmospheric, so I'm not going to comment. And why don't we? Because
that's what we do. Sometimes
don't know who I am. Yeah. Why don't we move on to something more productive to utilize on the air to like talk about what the positions are? You know how I want to make Minnesota the nuclear bedrock of America because we need nuclear power. If we're talking about data centers, we're talking about cryptocurrency, we're talking about all these things that everyone wants to put on the grid. We need nuclear. And that's going to be my legacy in the U.S. Senate. But you want to like talk about this red herring to detract. It's like, no wonder we didn't uncover any fraud for 10 years. You guys don't want to talk about the fraud. We could have this story on the fraud, man. If only Derek Chauvin was fraud, maybe we would have uncovered it 10, 20 years ago.
I mean, you're comparing the international incident that was the killing of George Floyd with fraud. I don't understand.
That was an international incident? How was that an international incident?
People around the world were marching and protesting after that happened.
I think you had more millions of people get American and Minnesota tax dollars in Al-Shabaab than were marching around the world for George Floyd. I think we had more millions go overseas than there were people marching for George Floyd. I think there's more billions of dollars overseas that were marching for George Floyd. But why aren't we talking about the fraud? We're still uncovering the fraud right now. I think we just uncovered a couple $2 billion last week.
Yeah, the fraud. I think the Republican Party should be talking about the fraud. But
I would love to, but you want to talk about an event that I wasn't at.
Well, you were at. You were at the convention. I was at the. I was a quarter mile away. So you don't think you should have an opinion about anything that happened that you weren't in the room for?
No, I definitely should if I had time to look at it. I wasn't there, and I just broke yesterday. So no, I don't have an opinion because, again, I want to be an honest broker. Unlike most politicians, If I say something, I want it to be authentic and I want it to be educated. If there's things I don't know about, including policies, I'm not going to go out there and say something about a policy that I don't know about. I will do the work, and they'll come up with a statement or something to contribute. But I'm not going to just opine on things. That's how you lose faith. That's how people don't trust you. That's why people don't trust politicians. So when I say something, it's going to be with my word is my bond. Right. And I think if you were intellectually want to have a great dialogue, you would accept that and move forward instead of wasting our time talking about that versus all these other great things we could talk about. There's so many issues we could talk about.
Pick one. Go ahead.
Stop the deficit spending.
Go ahead. What?
How we could stop deficit spending. We could literally stop deficit spending if we went after more of this fraud. If we used AI to catch fraud earlier, we could solve our multi-generational debt, $39 trillion. We could start clawing that back if we actually put AI. Like if you went to right now and try to buy a pack of gum in Tennessee on your bank card, it would come up what? It would come up as fraud.
Right.
Why isn't the government doing that for billions of dollars if your bank does it to you for a $2 pack of gum? Yeah. I want to lean into that. And I want to establish a bipartisan independent committee because I know Republicans and Democrats have this zero sum, they're deadlocked. So, hey, let's put it in the hands of a bipartisan independent commission so we can both take credit for this huge win. And because I don't care about Republican and Democrat talking points, I care about America. We could have had a whole. Do you think
the Fed should fund state level technology that would enable maybe better fraud detection?
Well, a lot of that fraud was national dollars. A lot of that was federal tax dollars.
Yeah, which is why I'm with you. I think it would make sense for the federal level to say, look, we got to help the states have better detection, better technology, better AI. I mean, in Minnesota, a lot of the computing system that the state has been using was like out of the 80s. I mean, they just put some money in there to try to address that. But is that something the federal government should look at?
Yes. Anytime anybody in government can look at stopping fraud, waste, and abuse of American taxpayer money, that is a good thing.
Agree with you there. Adam Schwarze, we appreciate you spending some time with us, and we'll be watching closely throughout the campaign. Thank you.
Have a good day. Thank you.
Well, that was interesting.